With talk of a possible second wave of the coronavirus this fall, will college students be able to head back to campus next year? NBC News senior national correspondent Kate Snow looks at what this pandemic means for rising college freshmen.
With campuses deserted nationwide, most colleges and universities are still deciding if they'll open for in-person classes this fall. Some are planning for the return of students, but many are putting off any final decisions until June or July. Harvard University tweeting Monday it will be open for fall 2020, but cannot be certain that we will be able to resume all usual activities on campus.
Every college would love to be open in the fall residentially because their operating budget revolves around and depends upon tuition revenue.
In an op-ed in the New York Times, Brown University's president said reopening campuses in the fall should be a national priority because if colleges stay shuttered, it's not a question of whether institutions will be forced to permanently close, it's how many. She says campuses will need rapid testing, ways to trace the spread, and isolate students who get sick. Purdue University's president saying they'll need huge changes if they reopen.
I know we're looking for ways to reduce the size of classes, obviously the distance, keeping distance between people. Probably going to see masks as a requirement, at least for a long time here.
For high school seniors like Grace Jewell, it's a stressful time. She got into 3 music programs, including one in Boston. But because of coronavirus, she's leaning towards staying close to home in California.
There was no way I could leave where I am right now, just with the whole situation that's going on.
Her mom, Kelly, wonders if it's worth the cost if classes are virtual.
That's a big decision to spend a lot of money to do something online when maybe the experience isn't what you kind of had planned, you know?
A new study from the Art and Science Group finds nearly 20% of high school seniors who were planning to go to college will no longer enroll full-time at a 4-year institution. And 65% of the seniors surveyed are concerned they may not be able to attend their first-choice school. A quarter of those students saying their families may not be able to afford it. The number of students taking a gap year, a year away from school, is also on the rise.
A lot of students are still grappling with whether or not they want to attend college if it was virtual. My guess is that most would not want to if they had the choice, and they would wait.
Kate Snow is with me now. Kate, schools obviously need students to enroll. We saw that mother in your story saying she's just not sure whether the cost of tuition is worth it if kids can't have the full college experience. Are those schools doing anything to try and encourage students to still enroll for fall 2020?
Yeah, Allison, they sure are. And just a note, you know, May 1st is Friday, and that's typically the deadline for most schools. And most schools have kept with that deadline for kids to decide, for high school seniors to commit and pay a deposit, a down payment on school. So, yeah, this week, it's intense. Washington Post was reporting on some perks that are being offered, things like parking spaces on campus or the best dorm room or access to early enrollment so you can get the later classes in the day, those kind of things, and money, obviously. Scholarships are being offered to try to lure kids to a campus because there is this concern, as you heard the president of Brown express, if they don't get a full class for the fall, some of these institutions, those that are smaller or weaker financially, could actually go under.
That's a scary thought. Are we seeing any of those universities working together or collaborating to figure out how they're going to get students back on campus safely?
Yeah, there's a lot of information sharing going on. You get the sense that the administrations of the major kind of all talking to each other about best practices and what's going to work and how, you know, public health measures that they can take. There's even been talk of campuses finding hotels that they can collaborate with so that then if there are outbreaks on campus, they can put kids out of the dorms and into hotel rooms. There's a lot of creative thinking going on, Allison.
Very impressive. How about high school juniors, Kate? I can't even imagine what it's like trying to make a decision about where you might want to go to college when you're not able to visit those schools. Are there things that they're doing to kind of make up for those visits and those trips that they can't take right now?
Right. So these are the students who are juniors right now in high school who would be visiting colleges right now. They would be taking the SATs and the ACTs, which have both been pushed off and delayed now. They would be, going on tours. All of that's being done virtually and online now. I know this very well because I am the mother of a high school junior. And just yesterday, he was taking a virtual info session online. Yeah, but it's not the same as being able to go to a campus and feel it. And, a lot of the colleges are saying that, too. The admissions offices feel like they can't wait until, hopefully, kids can come back maybe late summer and at least see the place or do a real visit to get a sense for the place. Because, again, those students have to apply in the fall. Normally, they would apply their senior year. And if they don't apply, then there's no pipeline at all for the colleges, moving forward.
Oh, Kate, I feel for your son. I may be an old lady, but I remember what it was like when I stepped on campus and said, okay, this is the college I want to go to. That is a very hard thing to do from home. I really sympathize with him.
That, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No matter how old we get, we never forget it, right?
That's right.
Kate, thanks so much for being with us. And best of luck to your son as he tries to make those tough decisions.
Thanks so much.
The Trump administration is facing a lawsuit for denying stimulus checks to more than 1 million Americans who are married to immigrants. MSNBC legal analyst Danny CEVALLOS joins me now. Danny, great to see you again. Would you talk us through the suit? And by that, I mean the lawsuit, not your suit. I know we love to chat about those as well.
The plaintiff in this case has filed a putative class action. In other words, he's suing based on the fact that he didn't get his $1,200 stimulus check because he is a U.S. citizen, so he qualifies so far, but both people in his household are not also Social Security number holders. In other words, he is married to an immigrant without a Social Security number. And he's claiming that that violates the Constitution on 2 grounds. Number one, it's discrimination based on what's called alienage. I know that sounds a little insensitive, but that's what the courts call it, alienage, or someone being an alien and an immigrant here to this country. The other ground is an infringement on his his fundamental right to marry. And that was recently very much highlighted in the Obergefell case in 2015, which dealt with that fundamental right to marry. So although this seems like a very cruel carve-out, as it's been called in the lawsuit, this is going to be a challenging lawsuit for this plaintiff. First, the idea that it's a discrimination against alienage is something that sounds mean, and generally, if the states discriminate against aliens, as they're called, it's treated very similarly to discrimination based on race or something else that's a suspect class. Okay. But when the U.S. government does it, when Congress does it, it's presumptively considered to be part of their immigration policy. So the federal government and Congress can discriminate against alienage or immigrants in that sense. So that's why in this case, you see the plaintiff is not the immigrant wife, it's the citizen husband. And he's claiming that this is a violation of his constitutional right to marry. But even that claim has its challenges because there are many different laws that affect someone's right to marry. For example, if you marry somebody from another country, you're allowed to marry that person, but you don't have an automatic right to bring them here to this country and get them a visa. If you're a fan of the popular show 90 Day Fiancé, which I am, that is the crux of the entire show.
Danny, I had a feeling that was a show you might be able to get behind. Thank you for confirming that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand there are exceptions that could allow some people with immigrant spouses to get their stimulus checks. If so, could you run us through what those are?
Yes, exactly. There is there's an exception so you need a household with 2 people with Social Security numbers. But if one of them does not have a Social Security number, as long as one of them is in the military, then they're going to look past that. You get an excuse, you get a pass, you're going to get your check. So that in that detail is even further evidence of the discrimination. They're essentially saying, look, we're keeping out households that have an immigrant non-Social Security number spouse. But if you served our military, we'll give you a pass. It's the kind of thing, it's the kind of a distinction that is ripe for an attack in courts because it seems to really single out one very narrow group of people.
Danny, a lot of people might watch this and think that's really unfair, but that is not always how the courts make their decisions. What do you think will happen here? It sounds like there are a lot of obstacles for this plaintiff to overcome.
I do, and you're absolutely right. I mean, this sounds really, really unfair. It sounds like this family, and there are many, many families like that. In fact, statistics quoted in the complaint say that 1.2 million people, citizens of the United States, are married to non-citizens. And so within that group, there are probably many thousands of people that fit this exact situation. But the courts have held pretty squarely in the past that Congress has almost a complete power over immigration. And so these plaintiffs have a very, very high burden to meet. That's not to say that they won't meet it, but they have many challenges ahead of them.
All right, Danny CEVALLOS, thank you so much. And Danny, I know we always check in with each other on items of workwear and footwear. I thought of you today. I went to sit down in this chair. I had flip-flops on, shoes on for the first time since doing this show from home in 5 weeks. And I thought Danny would not approve, so I took them off.
Oh, I have flip-flops on right now. And of course, I also have my very dad swim trunks. You know, the kind with the elastic band. They're all cinched up really high. Yeah, I'm embarrassed.
The dad trunks that pair really nicely with a full suit on top. I love it. Thanks so much for being here today.
Yeah. Allison, it's great to see you on this Wednesday. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. It's Tuesday. Thank you. Thank you.
You got it. Anything for you. Talk soon.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.